Hi, I'm Connor.
I'm Alejandro. And I'm Pam.
And we're here with Next Adventure to discuss the 10 essentials that you need to bring when you backpack.
The 10 essentials are the 10 items that you need to have while you're backpacking to make sure you survive.
We're going to start with first aid. What's the most important thing is take a class. Take a class on wilderness first aid. So that way you know what to do in the backcountry when something goes wrong. Always bring a first aid kit. Some of the things that I bring is Leukotape, duct tape, moleskin, anti-itch cream for all those mosquito bites. I'll bring an inhaler, and I will also bring a splint. What you bring in your first aid kit is completely up to you. Look at all the different options and see what best fits your needs. Next, we're going to talk about navigation. You can either bring a map, a physical map, and a lot of maps that you buy nowadays are weather resistant. You can also bring a compass. Bringing a compass means you need to know how to use that compass. There are also devices, such as Garmin Reaches, that will be able to navigate and have tracking purposes on them. A lot of phones nowadays have the capabilities that these Garmin Reaches also have for emergency purposes. Next, we're gonna go over another 10 essential, which is shelter. When you're out backpacking, you're most likely always bringing a tent. So one thing that I always bring backpacking is an emergency blanket. Super small, lightweight, put it in my first aid kit, and I'm good to go if something goes wrong and I'm in a place where I don't have access to my tent. Some other options that you may use are like a tarp, as well as a bivvy or a bothy bag. Depending on your backpacking adventure, you may bring one of the following. Just make sure you bring something to protect yourself from any of the elements that may happen on your trip.
Up next on our list of 10 backpacking essentials is sun protection. It's a pretty self-explanatory concept, but you're just going to want to make sure that you're always protected from the sun when you're out backpacking. I like to wear a sun hoodie. This is treated with SPF 50. I always have the hood on. Other things I like to wear for sun protection are sun gloves, and of course a hat and sunglasses. And these are a little bit stronger than your average sunglasses. You're going to want to make sure that they are UV protected and polarized. Last but not least is I have my trusty sunbrella here too, which I use. I clip it onto my pack and use it when I'm backpacking in places where there's not much shade, and that way I always stay protected from the sun. As Next Adventure's resident ginger, it's super important for me to stay covered from the sun, but everyone's bodies are different, so make sure you just find what works for you. Next up on our list of 10 backpacking essentials is extra food. You're going to want to make sure that you're staying fed while you're on trail. It can be pretty easy to start to feel weak, so things like extra calories and protein are super important. And you're going to want to make sure too, depending on where you're going, the proper elements of keeping your food safe from animals. So that could be something like a bear-proof or critter-proof bag, or in other places where bears are going to be a little bit more of a danger, you might need a bear canister. So don't starve. Next on our list of backpacking essentials is illumination. You could carry a flashlight, but most people choose to carry a headlamp when they go backpacking. It's a little bit easier just to have it on your head, and especially when you're in your tent, it's just less things going on. And one thing that you're going to want to look for when you're choosing a headlamp is, does it take batteries, does it recharge, or can it do both? Stay lit. Next on the 10 essentials list, we're going to be talking about hydration. When you're on the backcountry, staying hydrated is probably one of the most important things to do. It's going to prevent injury, just dehydration, and a multitude of bad scenarios. So when you're out there, always make sure to have some form of water bottle or combine it with some form of water bladder. And once you run out of water of both these options, always make sure you have some kind of water filtration or purifying system. Don't be thirsty, folks. Next on the 10 essentials list, we have layering. When you're out in the backcountry, you never know what's going to happen, so you always want to bring something just in case the worst occurs. Always bring some form of insulated jacket, either a puffy or a fleece jacket. As well, we lose a lot of heat through our head and our hands, so always bring some form of glove wear or beanie or hat. For when it rains, always make sure you have some form of rain shell. Something 2.5 layers or a 3 layer would be best. Next on our 10 essentials list, we have any kind of tool wear. Basically, when you're in the backcountry, always carry something like a multi-tool, which will have a knife, as well as a variety of other tools that you can use. These tend to go hand in hand with anything medical, but never discount a good little knife. Be safe out there. Hopefully these items will literally only be used for cutting food or anything like that, but never discount these items. living in the Pacific Northwest, we are very knowledgeable in the wildfires that ravage the West Coast every single year. So always double check any state news or anything like that. Make sure you can even have a fire. If you do need to start a fire for an emergency situation, or you are allowed to start a fire, always make sure you have 10 feet circumference around the fire so nothing will burn. If you can, put a little rock cairn around it as well to keep the fire contained, and make sure the fire does not go above 12 inches. Once the fire is burnt out, make sure to stamp out all the embers, and if any embers fly out of the fire when it is going, make sure to stamp those out as quickly as possible.
And those are the 10 essentials that you need for backpacking. Every 10 essential kit for each backpacker looks different, so make sure you do your research and see what works best for you. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below.
And we'll see you on your next adventure.
I can't do that. That's so cringe.